Black history is here, and what a better way to celebrate it than by highlighting those incredible contributions of Black and brown folks in politics. This month is a great opportunity to recognize those who have paved the way for progress and prosperity in our country. Today, I am joined by Tawayne McGee, a community activist, leader, precinct committee person, former city council candidate, and state representative candidate. Tawayne was born and raised in the Collingwood and Glenville neighborhoods of Cleveland, and he has been deeply involved in his community. His passion for politics are inspired by his great uncle, the late Mr. Virgil E. Brown Sr., who was recognized as the first African American Republican to hold a political office in Cleveland. This legacy has fueled Tawayne's commitment of serving others. So without further ado, I'm Juan Collado Diaz, and this is Politico. All right, so Tawayne, do you mind sharing a little bit about you, who you are, and what inspired you to, turn into the political world and join the political world?
Well, Mr. Collado, thank you for the invitation, for being a guest on your show. I'm a big fan of your work and keep on continuing to do what you do. My name is Tawayne McGee. I was born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio. I grew up in between the Collingwood and Glenville communities. To tell you the truth, I never expected to get into public service politics. It was kind of an unexpected stumble for me. Most likely in 2016 when the RNC, Republican National Convention, came to Cleveland, and that was kind of like the birth of me politically. I do come from a family of elected officials, starting with my great-great-uncle, Mr. Virgil E. Brown Sr., who at that time he was basically I believe he was like he was a political trailblazer within Cuyahoga County, especially as a Republican public office holder. I got a chance to meet him when I was a little young one, still young, but he passed away back when I was a little one. But, with actually engaging and to meet him, based on what I remember, was that he was a tall, well-dressed gentleman. When I get a chance to speak to some of the political trailblazers, such as Lee Fisher and Dennis Kucinich, they always remember my uncle to be a gentleman and a true public servant on behalf of the people, no matter what political party. Always happy to serve people. Going from the RNC from 2016, once again, was an unexpected stumble for me politically. You know what? I wanted to actually do something, but during that time, Bernie Sanders was one of the ones that kind of gained my interest as in a presidential candidate at that time. He spoke a lot of truth. He did gain my interest, especially as a young one. And it just went from there. Yeah, Hillary Clinton was not my original choice. Bernie Sanders was. I do feel that he basically did not deserve to, as people say, be screwed of the Democrat Party nomination. Hey, do you go for name recognition, and what do you feel like is a good chance to beat the Republican nominee? But at that time, it was my first time voting within that year. And I've been voting since then, active in the political process since then. Yeah, going from running for public office multiple times, some won, some lost, to serving people within a bigger platform besides from just locally. Human rights activism is one of many, basically the main root of activism. Main issues such as healthcare, veterans' rights, access, when it comes to resources and sources, and sex and human trafficking. Yeah, so those are my top three right there. The fight still continues, no matter if it's local or statewide, or even all the way to the White House, or even beyond that. We have to continue to fight the good fight, and I've known you to fight the good fight, so continue to do what you do, my friend. Always have my support.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tawayne. And I wanted to, ask you, we talk a little bit about your public office, and you're a person of color in one of the United States' most divided cities. We talk about Cleveland, everybody mentions how Cleveland is diverse in many ways, but we're still seeing the effects of red lighting from, the late 30s and early 40s still affecting us today, and how segregated our city still is. As a person of color yourself, you have run. You were precinct committee member, if I'm correct. Then you ran for city council, and most recently state rep. Do you mind sharing a little bit of the experiences, while running for elected office, campaigning, going out there, and again, not just as you, but also as person of color in the community and trying to get elected? How was the race pretty much in Cleveland?
I must say, running for precinct committee back in 2018, I ended up winning my seat. That position really doesn't get much recognition. It's one of the lowest positions in local government. But I was happy to win that. Did one term after 4 years. And then you talk about how diverse the city is, basically. Cleveland is known for being predominantly African American, with also having many different other people of different ethnicities as well as that too. If you're talking about going from east to west, and now of course not counting the outside suburbs, but just focusing on the city of Cleveland. Um, Getting a chance to speak to people as a candidate and as a former elected official. Many people like the fact that one, I'm young. Two, the fact that I'm trying to do something positive into the world, such as like, do run for positions that can bring great legislation to the city or even just within the state. And then, just focusing on listening to the people because that's what people want. They want to be heard. They want to be heard. And they feel like a lot of politicians, career politicians, do not listen to the people. So with coming from the world of activism, which I am not a politician, public servant is more would be to describe me. Just once again, just listening to the people and find out what they want. When I ran for city councilman back in 2021, Ward 12, the old Ward 12 was very diverse. It went from east to west, from Slavic Village to Old Brooklyn, Tremont, and Brooklyn Center. It was a very diverse ward at that time. And of course, different parts of the ward needed different things, some similar, but different as well. And they just wanted to be heard. Yes.
Yeah, and that came as you mentioned earlier. Your great uncle, you had a family and a line of service, people serving in public office. Do you mind sharing a little bit of like, was he part of your inspiration to run for office, or was were you inspired just by like being out there and seeing what people needed?
Well, when I got into public service politics, my family was like, you should use your Uncle Virgil's name as leverage. Now, once again, he died back when I was a young one. I never really knew him, but I've heard of things about him. And, so that was definitely one of many inspirations for me. But also continuing, I said, while I was in this unexpected stumble, you know what, I'm going to connect with all of the elected officials and activists within the community, with the city of Cleveland. And I'm going to learn from them about how advocacy works and also how running for public office works. So I learned a lot within those relationships and definitely being inspired by them as well. Some of them no longer hold office. Some of them are no longer here with us based on Lord's calling, but I learned a lot from them. So those lessons I still continue today.
Absolutely. And what we're seeing, I heard from you earlier, one of the things that you said, you lived west and east of the city.
Yeah.
And, many people don't have the privilege to like, have both sides and see those both sides. I work on the east side of Cleveland, but I never lived on the east side of Cleveland, right? And working there and living there is a different like experience. You have experienced both sides, and what is like the one thing, when you're experiencing both sides and you have literally, seen everything going on, what are the issues do you see in the community that like, has brought you also out here for the human rights activism yourself? I mean, there's no event that I don't go around the city where I don't see Tawayne, or if I don't meet someone, then tells me like the other day I saw Miss Dolores, and I am looking at him for a minute. I remember you from somewhere, and then we're sitting down and talking to Wayne McGee. To Wayne McGee introduced us some time ago, and that's how we know each other. So and you have built this network of activists and community leaders and put them together. You have connected those pieces, of a puzzle to create a larger infrastructure in our city. So when you go west to east and east to west, how do you like work to separate that division? I guess the primary thing, we're very divided as west and east, but also bringing people together.
Wow. Yes, I have lived on the east, and I'm currently living on the west. And one thing when I first moved there as an adult, I love the neighborhood. I felt that I can walk down the street and feel safe. I mean, sure, you have your crime and everything. I mean, what city doesn't? Probably depending on the neighborhood, but you feel safe. Now, living on the east side, probably depending on where, growing up between Glenville and Collarwood communities. I mean, if you're walking down St. Clair, no matter if it's night or day, you have to look over your shoulder because you never know what's going to happen. You can walk tall down your street, but apparently for you, you might not feel safe at the same time. So you definitely want to be aware be aware of your surroundings. Although I hate to say that, but I mean, hey, that's reality.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, our city, every city has that like a crime aspect of it. So sadly, Cleveland is a little larger than others, and we can either kind of like, as I say, deal with it or move on from it. But let's talk a little bit more about your life experiences. In this world of politics too. You have had the chance to meet many amazing like politicians around. You have got the chance to meet amazing, people, black and brown people who has been, I'm assuming, inspiration for a lot of your work. Do you mind sharing some of the experiences and some of the most impactful ones to you, of meeting some of this like big name out there politicians, I'm gonna say quote unquote famous because like, all politicians are kind of famous because they already got elected, But, do you mind sharing the experience of those people when you met and if you have any stories of like meeting one of them who has inspired you the most?
Man, I've met many politicians, but besides from politicians, entertainers, activists, a lot of big names in the world. I've met people who I thought I would never meet in my life, Republican or Democrat. Yeah. Still have a couple of names on my bucket list I would still love to meet and network with. A few people I could possibly name. No, he's not a politician, but he is definitely inspiration. Actor and author, Mr. LeVar Burton from Reading Rainbow. I got a chance to meet him a few times when he's come to Cleveland, and one of the first things he said to me when I first got a chance to meet him was "Be relentless," and I do take that with me wherever I go. Many other people was at Reverend Al Sharpton. I got a chance to meet him. He was very nice when you attend the National Action Network conferences, no matter if it's uh, nationwide or just locally, some of the branches, but he has come to Cleveland a few times. I got a chance to meet him. Lots of positive energy from there. And I got a chance to meet historical activist Angela Davis. Yes. She was wonderful as well too. So I mean, a lot of great inspirations, definitely a lot of breathtaking experiences. Wow, it's so much, man. It's so much, man. Um, definitely, definitely keeping the train going with getting a chance to meet them, but also they always ask me about my story and what got me into politics. And some of the things I have shared with you, Mr. Cayallo, was unexpected stumble. But hey, I'm happy to be here. Happy to be here, to be a public servant and serve the people from whatever level of public service as I can.
No, yeah, absolutely. And one of the other things that we've seen, happening right now in our cities and in the whole world, it's the current administration and the attack on those like, black and brown folks, immigrants and people of color. If you had one message to share with this, like, with this group of people and all the people out there, what would be that message that you would share with like the people who are fighting, new activists who are, coming into the world now where, you have been doing this for a minute. I have been doing this for a minute, but there's new people that want to come out here and do more. What is your message to those that want to come to the world of activism and human rights activism itself?
Yeah, when I first got into the activism, did not, man, for me, connected with the right people. You know, finding out what their causes are that they're fighting for. This is the activists, but also listening to everyday people to find out what their needs are. And then you shape yourself and you shape the platform of the ideas that you feel that needs to be fought for and recognized, maybe such as possibly recycling or global warming or certain or maybe women's rights, or the abortion that comes with that, or something form, take an idea and then target it and put a lot of backing into it. And but also when it comes to surrounding yourself with good activists. You might not all represent the same issue, but learning from each other on how to be a good activist and to push a lot of agenda behind that one issue or two or three issues that you are fighting for. It's all about the backing.
Absolutely. And I'm gonna go one more time back. We talked a little bit about like your previous campaigns and I myself, as your previous campaign manager, actually, we always talk about this. And we had amazing times doing this, but what is one experience when you're like if someone's trying to run for office and they're getting out there and this is like their first time, they have no experience, they don't know what to do. What is words of advice do you give people to when they're running for office?
Man, well, it just depends on what position they're trying to go for. If it's precinct committee, that's more of a hands-on elected seat. Being seen, being active within your precinct, speaking to voters, letting them know what issues and what candidates are out there running. Basically just keeping a visible eye. Being visible within your community. When it comes down to like council and state rep, that's more of a legislation deal, but also with city councils, you get a chance to also be activist and everything. Yeah, focus on what do people need, basically, and just go from there. The point is listening and responding, but mainly listening. The state reps, you may spend a lot of time in Columbus within a little bit of time in your own home district. But I mean, the commute between Columbus or Cleveland or whatever city back to Columbus, that's a pretty hard commute based on some state reps, but they do it and they're happy to serve the people. If you're more of a local kind of person, I mean, well, running for city council, that might be more of your forte, or county council, county commissioner, something like that, whatever that's more local. Yeah. But definitely having a heart for it. And, some people might have a different idea, because running for city council and running for state rep, that's more based on legislation. And I learned a lot from both of those races. Running, you might meet some of the guys who've been in the game longer than you, like the 40-year veterans, political veterans. They may say that, hey, you lack this experience when it comes down to this position. But I say this, I have asked many people while running for council and state rep, like, how do you expect someone to gain the experience if they don't go after the position that will provide them with the experience? Because you can have a college degree based on political science or some type of legislation background. But for some people, that experience might not even be enough. And for me, like, I don't have any college experience when it comes down to any political background. But for me, I've went to the libraries, I've read books, I've went to seminars based on, legislation forms and all that stuff, but some people say that still might not be good enough. I'm like, then what is enough? What is enough? Because sometimes those 40-year political OGs, sometimes they forget where they first start, because now they have the experience, but that was the time they never had the experience. And then they look at me, who's coming in after like, within like 10 years in the political arena as activism, but never has had any elected seat writing legislation. And here I am, I'm ready, and I'm asking them questions like, hey, like what makes a good legislator? Some of them might give me bad advice, and some of them might give me good advice. Some of them, I'll say to them, for those who know me, they say, Mr. McGee, you do have a good heart. I think you will be a good legislator. It just takes time. And if I tell them, hey, I have no legislative experience, some of them say, well, who gives a crap? You get in there, you learn over time. you know. But for the people that do have political legislation, I've met possibly a small amount of political legislators who have experience in legislation who have never passed a single piece of legislation within their public office holding. And sometimes the question is, why is that? That's coming from my activism side.
And this says a lot. And this says a lot about people. If you cannot pass, if you're in office and you can't do the one small thing that you're hired to do, that says quite a lot about you as a person. You have to. I think that if you're elected to office where you like putting legislation, you should be passing legislation. You should be doing this stuff, right? And it's not just that, but also caring about the people, working with the people, and that's something I see, from you over and over again, elected or not elected. You are a man of like principle and working with people, and that I think that in itself has built more than just a professional relationship between us, a friendship, like family, like And so I wanted to ask you, and this is with all this years of experience and everything that you have seen, and you have done this, and again I go back to, we're currently celebrating Black History Month, and your ancestry line also comes from Black men elected in office, powerful men and women in your family. What does Black history for you? What does Black history means for you altogether, politically and unpolitically?
Man, well, either me being a person of color, African American in the country that we live in today, or even the world that we live in today, I am very honored to be of my ethnicity. I'm very honored of my bloodline, and I do feel that um, there's some unfair treatment when it comes down to people of color, or even just even the humanity, all in all. From no matter what ethnicity, what religion. Yeah, I think Dr. King said it best, and that's only one race, and that's the human race. But just to look at myself as an individual, just as an individual, yeah, I mean, there's people who basically have lived life harder than the other person has. And that can be possibly based on their character or based on their ethnicity. And, never know what their struggles are until you listen to their story. And then when they are open to sharing their story, for you as the listener, you take something out of that. And you could say, if it was a simple twist of faith, you could be in the same position as they are in right now. The city of Cleveland is is up for a battle. It's always up for a battle, no matter what politician you have in the seat, no matter what activist. No, one politician can't do it all. So far, we've had Mayor Justin Bibb. He's in his second term right now. I remember when I ran for city Cleveland Council in 21, he was running for mayor. And I remember as a voter at that time, stepping away from my candidacy at the time, but as a voter, attending his town halls, listening to what he had to say, along with other candidates running for that seat. There was like, 7 candidates running for mayor back in 21. I'm not going to name them all, but, I'm sure they know who they are. And at that time, a lot of people just wanted to see a young person with new ideas. And some people say, Bibb, he just came from out of nowhere. Who is this Justin Bibb person? Where has he come from? But, you know, based on him and listening to what he had to say, he actually listened to the people, had town halls, no matter if it was Zoom or in person. And at that time, we was, coming out of a COVID pandemic, maybe still going through a little bit of it, but at that time, we was coming out of it. And one thing many people liked about him was the fact that he actually listened, not just people on the east side, but also people on the west side too. And he brought some new ideas to the table as well too. And I think that's what a lot of politicians forget to do once they actually in office. Think about how they were as a candidate. And no matter if you're holding public office, still have that candidate idea in your heart. Still go to neighborhoods, still listen, still have town halls. But yeah, you're going to be in City Hall making calls and trying to balance out budgets and all that stuff too. But don't forget about the people on the outside of City Hall. Still hold town halls. Maybe like maybe held 3 times a month or something like that, or go to have a house meeting. Always connect with the people that are voted for you, even for the people who didn't vote for you. You can be a Democrat and possibly have a small amount of Republicans vote for you, but don't neglect the Republicans because once again though, they are a part of the political process. They may have different ideas than you, might not support everything that you do, but they're still voters at the end of the day, and they want to have a leader that will support some of their issues as well too. So that's
Absolutely.
my
And I wanted to end this episode by asking you one thing. You recently, and I don't want to like just throw you under the bus, but you recently just had your big 30, which was an amazing party, amazing get together for all of us, right? But I wanted to like ask you if you could go back to your like 15, 16-year-old self with the knowledge you have today, the experiences you have gone through, what advice would you give yourself at 16?
my goodness. At that time, I was just trying to working on trying to be academically great in high school, but I would tell myself that once you get in your 20s and go through your 20s or late teens, certain experiences you're going to have. I'm not going to tell you what exactly those experiences are, but they will shape you on uh, who you are today. You learn from them. You don't try to make the same mistake twice. Um, and you will struggle a couple of times, but God is with you.
All right. Well, I want to thank you, Mr. McGee, for joining me today and having this amazing conversation. For those that want to follow Tawayne, and you can go to the show notes, and will you see some stuff about Tawayne. You see his socials where you can follow him, his website, which is still under development, we're working on, and you will see more, including the one time that Tawayne was in the New York Times too. It's like we will post all that, and you'll be able to see it. You can also find Tawayne on Instagram at McGee for Ohio 20, which rebranding soon for Tawayne. And you can find him on Facebook too as Tawayne McGee. And Tawayne, I don't know if you want to say anything else before we go.
I do thank you for everybody who came out to listen to this interview. This is my first interview of 2026. Happy to be with guest on Mr. Kai. show. Hopefully it won't be the last.
All right, well, thank you, Tawayne, and thank you, everybody, for listening. Thanks so much for listening. If you are enjoying Politico, make sure to listen and follow on all podcasting platforms. If you are interested in learning more about the topic that we spoke today, follow the show notes at www.politicopod.com. Politico is an Inquisitor Media original production hosted by me, Juan Collado Diaz. If you want to learn more about the work we do on our advocacy work, make sure to follow or visit Politico at www.politicopod.com.